So here is what sometimes happens when we're all sitting around either before the show, not just dancing, while we're all at games waiting for tip-off, or maybe at the bar after a game. We will all fall into a few rounds of what if. You know, like, what if the Chris Paul to the Lakers trade had gone through? It's not just that Kobe might have tied Michael Jordan for that 6th ring. It means Pau Gasol would have gone to Houston. So does James Harden still end up there then? Maybe, maybe not.
Oh,
Dwight
probably
Howard?
not.
Definitely not,
Definitely
right?
not.
I mean, what if Derrick Rose had never blown out his knee and instead been left to build on being the league's youngest Denver MVP? Or what if the Pistons hadn't fallen in love with Darko Milicic and drafted Carmelo Anthony instead? Or Stack. Look at that young Stack. What if the malice at the Palace had never happened? I mean, Reggie Miller has said, Stephen, that was the best Pacers team he ever played on. Do you agree? Do you think you guys would have won the title in 2005
Yes.
if that had no suspensions?
Yes, I definitely think we had everything covered. I think we would have.
See, what if? Still, one of the most biggest enticing what ifs has been this one. What if the Oklahoma City Thunder had just paid James Harden in 2012 instead of trading him, keeping Harden, Kevin Durant, and Russell Westbrook all on the same team? I mean, you can argue this one forever. Clearly, neither Russ nor James will likely ever become MVP candidates in that scenario, right? But the sheer collection of talent, especially now that we have seen each of them get to spread their wings and develop, it's just mind-boggling. It is a super high bar, and that is why comments that Harden made to Vice Sports are catching so much attention. Harden told Vice he sees a comparison between that 2012 Thunder team and his Rockets team that is about to take the floor this season. Here's the quote. Both teams are similar as far as talent, versatility, a mixture of vets and young guys. Both are very, very, very talented. Now, obviously, the difference is we were younger back then, but both are good. Now, I would argue there are more differences than that. Forget the age thing. I'm not comfortable saying Harden plus Chris Paul equals Harden plus KD plus Russ.
Not at all.
But for fans who have been playing the what-if games since Harden was traded in 2012, it is interesting that at least he thinks this is in some way a chance at a talent-level do-over. Stephen, what do you think about James being willing to make this comparison? And I do have to say, I'm sure the interviewer said to him, do you think that they compare? I doubt that he brought it up on his own. But still, he played ball and made he said all those quotes.
It's good confidence going to the season for your team.
Okay.
But no, I couldn't disagree more. There's no Russ on that team. There's no KD. Age difference, regardless. You don't have those two stars on your team.
Okay, Chris
Paul's great,
is
and
one of
I'm
the
not taking nothing from
best
Chris
point
Paul.
guards of the last,
A great
15
piece
years.
for Rockets going into the season. A great piece that James needs. But they're not KD, they're not Russ, they're not James. It's not even close. Probably the worst comparison I've heard.
Woo! How you really feel? You know, I gotta be honest. Like, I don't think I played that game last year during the playoffs because
The what-if game?
The what-if game, right?
We do play it a lot, right? When we're sitting around
and
talking
mostly
in the green
about
room.
basketball. But
Yeah.
so in the playoffs,
And sometimes only sometimes at the bar.
we don't talk about that. But you know, the Thunder played the Rockets in the first round of the playoffs, so we had that whole thing rushing back in. And then obviously with the Warriors and Kevin Durant and the Warriors now. And I really think that all three players would not have become the players they are if they had stayed together.
Right.
Like, each one of them needed a bigger pot to grow in. They became different players because they had to be the man on their team.
Yep.
Russell became a triple-double machine because Kevin Durant was gone.
Yep.
Kevin Durant became the Finals MVP because he left.
Yep.
James Harden was a six-man on that team. When people forget that James Harden didn't have a great Finals. James Harden wasn't even James Harden. When they traded him to Houston, I don't even think anybody realized how good of a player he was. I don't even think we realized how good of a player James was until this past year when Mike D'Antoni got a hold of him and made him a point guard.
Right. Well, I mean, isn't that part of his thinking, though, now, in making this comparison and talking about, look, talent, versatility, vets, very, very, very good talent level.
Well,
maybe he thinks this year's team's better than
them
everyone
together
thinks.
was
I'm trying to
dangerous.
stand up for James.
They're
I'm trying to stand up
dangerous.
for
They
you.
were
They were dangerous, but they were still so young and they weren't who they were yet.
Right.
This team right now, I'm not convinced this team is even going to be better than last year's Rocket team. Okay?
Really?
Other than the fact that Chris can take some pressure off of James, right?
Williams.
Like, so there's times where I think James wore down. I think he got tired at the end of the year because he had to carry so much of the load last year.
Right.
So Chris is going to take some of that off of him. It's the same dynamic, though, that Chris had with Blake in Los Angeles. Blake Griffin is a guy who needs the ball in his hands. He is a good facilitator when they run the offense through him. So they kind of traded off. Like, they didn't necessarily turn into that Stockton Malone pick and roll combination that everybody thought they were going to have the whole time. It was more of a trade-off. Okay, Chris, you're in charge now. Okay, this one, Blake, you're in charge. I
Right.
think that's kind of how this is going to work. Like, I don't see Chris Paul as a spot-up shooter. So does that necessarily
They're
elevate
going to miss
them?
Lou Williams. They're
Yeah,
going to miss
I
Lou
think
Williams.
I agree with all of that. Chris has said, "Hey, I don't want to be dribbling as much. I don't want the ball in my hand." Do you buy that? Do you think that he wants to play a little differently?
Well, I think he wants to, but
No.
that's not real because he's the playmaker.
That's right.
Nobody's going to make plays but him and James. So he's going to have to be ball dominant still, even though James is going to be ball dominant
Yeah,
as
I
well.
saw them in the summer at the Drew League when they
Yeah.
played together, and it was funny watching it because James plays like James. Like he's chill, he's cool, he's
Step back
right,
king.
step back. And it's also
Are
summer
you
league.
saying Chris Paul is
And
not
Chris
as chill?
Paul was like that's absolutely what I'm saying. Chris Paul was organizing the
Chris.
offense in the Drew League.
He also
Like,
came
he
out of the
was-
shell.
Of course he was.
He was catching lobs, throwing.
Yeah.
He was doing tricks. So his game is
so
he came out of the
he
shell.
can do
Yeah.
that. I don't know.